Hello, my dear friends. Welcome to the talk of the record, is what I put it as. But yes, this is very funny. And the one who I will be talking to tonight, today, or this afternoon, would be someone who is a multi-talented and multi-skilled and multifaceted. That is what that bio says. And she has has been a journalist, lecturer, and content editor. And you know what? She's a resident, what do you call, writer, resident writer in Hungary and Bulgaria. That has happened in, 2022. So, and one more thing is that I'm being a unruly poetaster. I just has, scribbled up something up, and it is. I don't know, but yes, she given a beautiful touch, and she considered it, she thought it worthy to be translated, and she, put it in, translated in Hindi. That was something so beautiful, and it was I never expected, and she, discolored it. And और चलती रही कहानी बढ़ते आगे, किसी पारंपरिक फिल्म की तरह नहीं, बल्कि एक अलग अंत के अद्वितीय चरम बिंदु की तरह, which is beautifully and embellished, I would say, and colored it. And they quickly write that I just scribbled it up, and the story continued, not like a cliche movie, but with a unique climax of a different ending. That was something something this. So, but yes, let's delve into and ask about not like a regular question and answers type, but yes, I would ask Pankhuri. Yes, that is what her name is, Pankhuri Sinha. You all know. Please welcome Pankhuri Sinha. And yes,
thank you.
she's
I
a
am
biologist,
so
poet,
honored to
story
be
writer,
here.
translator, and please welcome Pankhuri Sinha. And before, my question is that, how was your reaction when you get in you grabbed your, I mean, he never thought of, receiving a distinction certificate, state level certificate, when you passed out in 10th or something in state level kind of. So that is what I come across, So
Uh-huh.
please enlighten us.
First of all, thank you so much. I'm really honored and delighted to be here. Talking to you is always fun. And yes, I enjoyed translating your poem, and I will do a few more. I really enjoy, all the activities of Fertile Brains. Thank you for the, very generous introduction. I was a resident writer, and, wish me luck. I have applied for another one in a couple other places, so do wish me luck for that, everybody, including you, my dear brother. Sometimes I call you a brother, but you know what? Friendship is just so beautiful and it's so strong and it really needs to be emphasized. This is what our poetry is also about. It's about building relationships and it's about underlining humanity. So yeah, to come to your question, coming back to your question, I think I received an award for my highest marks in Hindi in 12th, not in 10th. You know, that is what I think you are referring to. But thank you for going through my bio so carefully and going back, all the way. This now seems to be like ages ago. This was, the beautiful year of 1991 when I had done my 10th and the beautiful year of 1993 when I had done my 12th. And I did my 10th, thank you. And I did my 10th from Bihar, from my native place, Muzaffarpur. And, the time, at that time in Bihar, and that time in itself and Bihar at that time is a topic of sort of, portrayal. We used to have no electricity and, God knows what else. But that's not an excuse, okay? That's not an excuse that I'm trying to make up. I'm just saying that, yeah, it was Bihar board. And I would like to say that I think that I was graded better and fairly in CBSE. So I wanted to change my board. But anyways, I was a happy kid in school as well. I had to work extra hard with maths and whatnot. But I enjoyed some parts of, biology and uh, anyway, so this was in Hindi, this was in literature, and I used to love history as well and geography as well. So all that was great. And I, in fact, also got an award for getting that number. And, that is the first time that I met a great Hindi poetess, Anamika, Dr. Anamika, who also hails from the same town. My town is sort of very historic in terms of women writers uh, in Hindi. So she was, sort of doing the bearing for that award ceremony, and it was amazing. Yeah, and after that, I did my graduation from Delhi University, which was also an eventful experience. So I mean, I could go on and on, but it's kind of important to sort of, let you put forth more questions. Yeah.
But apart being a academic and score, a kind of persuasion, from Delhi to Symbiosis, from Symbiosis to Buffalo, and back to India. So how is this journey like? It's you ever dreamt of being a pursuant of education and or a poet or a writer? Could you put it in terms?
Yeah, yeah. And you know what? You actually asked a very brilliant question. When we get an award, we feel sometimes very uplifted, very elated, and this happens more in the writing career. And sometimes I want to tell you and I want to share with you that, because you get an award, you also get extra tested and tried. You know what I mean, right? So sometimes, it's okay to sometimes go through that sort of a trial which is fair, but people should also be able to see the merit of your beauty. I mean, the beauty of your poetry and stuff like that. And yeah, generally speaking, I've also received fair amount of love. And so yes, the journey has been, I would say, incredible in some ways, because it has just been so eventful, and it has just been, another word that comes to my mind is checker. I mean, I was just a simple student, right, in graduation. But then, like, I was getting 60% in my first year, and in the second year, I met up with my, boyfriend, who was then to be my ex-husband and whatnot. And there was no, it wasn't like I was paying less attention to my studies or whatever, but I could feel that it made a lot of people unhappy. My grades went a little down. I had a second division, and overall also I got a second division in BA, which is, I'm not sad about it. It was above 55%, but yeah, I didn't want to do a master's then. I wanted to study journalism. But, I have always been pulled towards the academics. Uh, it's a long story, Prasanna. This is a
Yes.
long story of my academic journey. I did my master's from SUNY Buffalo. And, like I said, that I have always been in the eye of the storm. So I got pulled into, like, nobody gets invited into those kind of situations and questions and equations in which I was pulled into. Generally, people don't get pulled into those. You have to give me that much. And that is what happened. And I sort of, have an unfinished PhD right now, which I would like to finish. But before that, I am right now doing this writing, translating, and that is a journey in itself. You are also a full-time poet, and you know this. I mean, it's good to just talk about
Exactly. That is,
frank.
you
And
correctly.
here also, my brother, I'm going to have to jump in and say this. Here also, I have seen this. Just like I said, that everybody doesn't get pulled into these kind of everyday invitations to a party, or an everyday invitation to sort of, um, you know, into equations which seem to be presenting you a way out, but which are not, and which can, lead to amazing things. But similarly, everybody doesn't get picked like that for being a full-time writer.
Correct.
I mean, I'm not wishing that you get picked, right? I am not wishing that. So don't curse me if somebody just comes along and starts asking. But I have seen that, there are like 5 poets sitting there. All of them are like full-time poets or writers or translators, and they're really working hard. They're doing amazing work. Counting me.
Yes, exactly.
I'm the only one who will get picked for it. When I am not even presenting any sort of trouble to anybody else. So it's kind of something like this. I would say that some people just get picked up for ragging. Yeah, that is another big thing that, we are talking about the student life. We have talked about it. I think we can just safely talk about this. We all have a ragging period when we enter into school, right? Or IIT does it, even AIMS does it, even, I mean, these are the top institutions, IIMs do it. Every single Fachu and Facha school in the country, and, other places also, they do. Sometimes it gets very bad, it gets really nasty, and lots of angers come in, lots of things come in. So I think that in my case, it's sort of a ragging which has nothing to do with, I don't know with what. I can't understand. Maybe. And I would love those people to tell me why they are picking on me. What is the reason? So, yeah, so the journey has been incredible. I'm sorry. I highlighted some of the challenges, but yes, I should not count the thorns on a rose tree, but I should count the flowers and the buds, because I've received so much love and so many accolades and so much appreciation, critical and otherwise, from my excuse me, fellow writers and readers and others.
And
And
we and
yeah, sometimes I just want to end with saying this. Sometimes people want you to also um, do certain things, like write in a particular way. Yeah. Stop talking about difficult questions. Stop criticizing power, and I won't do it. So, I mean, these are things that are difficult to sell. If you're just selling a love poem, you're just so innocent and you're so right. There's nothing wrong with love unless it is, you know, forcing somebody else into a difficult situation. And men never get criticized for doing that. It's always a woman. I'm bringing gender in now. Um, so yeah, this world, as much as it is beautiful, it's also full of biases, and it's full of many many other problems. So these things happen. The thing is that the reason I'm talking about this is because, people face it, and it's so nice to just talk about it, get it over with, so that it ends with anybody and everybody who's facing it, right? It has been, like you've seen, I was abroad, and it was really wonderful. I had a sort of a difficult interview one time, which was just picking on my personal life a little bit too much, and where, I have this habit that I do not immediately get offensive in the way in which the other person is. And in a way, I think that nobody should, you know, in a way, I think that people should reserve their right to uh, not have to get offensive. I mean, they should be able to keep their right of, being not just defensive and passive, but not belligerent, you know. So yeah, but I mean, these are the problems, these are the troubles, these are the, you know, the tricky parts. But it's really been incredible. It was a beautiful feeling. Every single award that I've received since 2014 has been really, you know, very nice, nicely received, and I received a lot of congratulations as well. I mean, I talked about the trial, so I might as well, you know, talk about the celebration. And yes, I think that it makes you feel nice. But now, for a minute, let's leave the awards and let's just talk about, you know, the writing itself. I think that all of this process, you know, it just makes you stronger as a writer. The appreciation, the criticism, the market, the challenges, everything, right?
So what I understand is that, you know, during the conversation, while you put it in the beginning, it was eventful. So it was eventful, in fact. Yeah. So the one who experienced, you know, trials and tribulations and lows and highs would, he or she would, you know, uh, at some point of time they become, you know, a kind of personality where, you know, they do not get affected much about surroundings or whatever they, you know, just like. But in the inner turmoil, the inner, you know, the kind of thing they during the what they witness or the what they see, yeah, they, being a writer or being a poet, you try to express. That is what I believe. But let me ask you, which phase of yours would you like? Means you would like to be a poet or a writer? I mean, which is the best? You know, when you, because you being as a writer, you taken out some 12 books and, you know, some, you know, in poetry books. But which would be, you know, if I ask, which would you prefer, writer or a poet? Two
I don't
story
think.
collections and two poetry. So
Yeah, well, first of all, you are talking about that inner turmoil. So I write about the inner turmoil a lot, but I also write about the surroundings. And I think that a lot of people, I mean, it's also important to write about others, right? It's uh, it's a duty of a writer,
beauty of
in
it.
some ways, to talk about the challenges that could make people, you know, act like that. And I think that it can be explored in poetry as well as in prose, like in stories, in novels. My novel is going to attempt doing that. But now, to answer your question, am I more, what exactly did you think? That are you more happy being a poet, or are you more happy being a writer?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't decide this. You know, I don't decide this. There are some times when I'm just compelled to write poetry, and there are some times when I'm just automatically writing a story.
Mm.
But I think that maybe my basic nature is to be a poet, because I started with poetry. I wanted to write stories, and so I sort of, you know, migrated or graduated from there to stories. My first books that were published in Hindi by Gyanpith were storybooks, but since then I've just published poetry, and my third and fourth storybook should be coming out soon. But since then, I've published about 8 books of poetry, 2 in English, 6 in Hindi, and I have like about one, two, three, four, five, you know, in the pipeline submitted with the publisher. So, and I think that I have to say this not just in defense of writing poetry, but also reading poetry. I think poetry is just, it's an incredibly beautiful, civilizing, healing, and powerful, and in some ways forceful, and in some ways really, you know, fragrant, I want to say, as if it was, you know, tangible, you know.
it's more of
alive.
healing for me.
Yeah,
It's more of healing for me. And
yeah,
what
yeah.
I see, I mean, you do a lot of translations. So what's the motive of it? It's many say that when you translate something up, it only the motive is to reach out, or is it only the motive or any other thing? But I see a good translation is being done by you, and it's so. Could you tell
Yeah.
about?
So you can't write unless you read, right? You have to, I mean, theoretically speaking, you could go on writing, but if you really want to, sort of write well, you have to also read, you know? So reading has to be an intrinsic part of writing. And I wanted to translate because, I mean, the cliche answer would be, Prasanna, that, I wanted to make things available that are available in one language. I wanted to make them available in my language in terms of just presenting them. That is very cliche, and maybe it's the backbone, number one. But number two, it's when you interact with a book or a text in such a deep way where you want to sort of translate it, it's very enriching. It makes you think about languages in a very rewarding way. And I was feeling very sort of interested and sort of compelled to do it. And I wanted to start this project, and I started it with some Indian. Actually, I had been translated earlier, to be fair, and I would like to thank the people who had translated me. And this was before 2012, when I was a PhD student. And my stories, my poetries were translated in Marathi, and I think the Marathi was the language in which it was translated first. Today, it has been translated in several other Indian languages, but yeah, and I was feeling very good, and I want to do it myself. I wanted to read others, and I wanted to interact with poets themselves, because everything that I was facing, I wanted to see if they were facing as well, what kind of poetry they were writing. And then most of all, I wanted to cross the border, because I was feeling that in my language, poetry was being written in a typical way about typical things, about typical problems. And believe me, my brother, and I think that we crossed the border almost parallelly, you know, and the internet has been a revolution. Look at this. I mean, I'm using, and let me thank you for this. I'm using Zoom on my laptop for the first time. So yeah, it's a revolution, and what an incredible experience, it's just so good. So I just crossed the border, as in I went, I mean, we all joined Facebook, right? That was also a revolution. And it just became so easy. You could just talk to people, and you could talk to poets all over this world. And that's what I did, and that is how my little group of Poets Without Borders, we call that group right now. But I think that I'm going to change it to Poetry Without Borders, and let anybody not steal this. So yeah, Poetry Without Borders, I will do it as soon as I find the right modus operandi. So what I'm trying to say is that incredible poetry was being written in other parts of this world, in Latin America, in Japan, in China, and most of all, and where I crossed the border was in Europe. And people talking about heartbreaks and love affairs and all of these problems of what we call this urban disconnect with the society, this this individual isolation, this thing of wanting space and not being lonely and not being, poked with a finger as to you're alone and you mustn't be alone. And you make these compromises and you do this. Yeah, and this I forgot to mention. Some people, they want you to do certain things in a certain way, not just write, but live a life. It's very big. Everybody is talking about it, and it's not just one group. It's not just one political gang. It's the bigger society in a general way, and the whole. So we are progressing. We are a society in transition, and sometimes I'm really dazed and amazed by how nice people are as well. Despite the terrible news that we hear. Off and on. So anyways, so when I crossed the border and I met with these incredible poets, and even more their poetry, and I'm so happy and I'm so thankful to all of the poets who have been a part of this project. And I wanted, they're all your friends. I mean, Mircea was the first one, Mircea Danduta from Romania. And then there were so many, he introduced me to so many of his friends. He introduced me to Petar Chukov in Bulgaria, and Ivan Hristov in Bulgaria, and then I made friends with Sir Tom Phillips, and that's how I went to Bulgaria. Doing a translator residency. It was just amazing. Yeah.
Yuri was also there from Uzbek.
Who?
Yuri.
Yes, Yuri Botvinkin is an amazing person. He's a professor. He's an Indologist. He's coming on the 18th to speak on my book on the 17th. And Yuri is amazing. And there are several other amazing people, but let's just talk about a few at least, because I want to say thanks, Zanti, and so many other, Lucilla, and I mean, these people are big poets and they're very popular. Yeah, it's amazing.
So we could go on talking, and it was like a never-end talk, and we could just
incredible to
you could just
meet Zanti, and I was a guest in the house as well in Greece.
And Janti was saying that and meeting in person.
And I left my things at Zanti's place as well. I'm so glad I'm going to pick them sometime soon, next year.
But yes, that was so wonderful. And some more time, we are exceeding our time limit, but yes, I would do.
But I'm so not done. You have to, we have to do a second installment.
Yes, but yes, I would, before wrapping up, I would love to hear from you what is since we are coming up with yet to be this anthology that is that's We Rise by Lifting Others. So could you elaborate with you in your terms what is Manushatvam? So
what is
Manushatvam? So that is a title that we put it as Manushatvam and Songs of Humanity and We Rise by Lifting Others.
You mean Manushatvam as in like Manushyata, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. What is humanity? Yeah. Humanity is number one, let me start with the street. Why just with the book? Humanity is that if a girl is really, hurrying past, running at 10 p.m. because she's late, people shouldn't scare her. If there is a dog that is on the street, people shouldn't beat it away, I think humanity is that people should respect strangers and not just the people they know. Of course, humanity is to question everything that is suspicious, including unfair game of power. And I think humanity is, because we are social people, we like being together, I think humanity is to come together to achieve all of these things, And there is, we can't just do everything on the street. So we do it in our poetry, we do it putting together books. And I think that I have to really say a very big thank you to you for everything that you do. Not just this great, fantastic talk where I have had the opportunity to talk my heart out, and, I've talked so much about gender related, things. But the kind of picture writing prompt that you do, which is so nice and relaxing, and it's a beautiful exercise. It's a coming together of poets, It's fun. It's a beautiful thing. And similarly, the readings, I am a little away from it right now, but I'm so looking forward to coming back to it. I'm away from it because I'm preparing for an exam, and I'll tell you about it later. But I'm so looking forward to joining it, and everything else that you do. I have always, like, I asked you, can I try my Zoom, So you have always been there. So, I think that that's humanity, is that one should be able to simply make friends, and one should be able to hold hands and really walk together collectively in a huge group, so that we can really cross the oceans.
That is right. So very well put, ma'am. So holding oneself, each other, and taking it forward. So beautifully explained it. And thank you. Yes, that was Pankhuri Sinha for you all. So signing off. Bye bye. See you with a new guest, till some other time. Thank you.
Thank you. I have to thank you.